Okay. And as you know, a transcript is also generated during the recording. So we'll have that going for us.
Okay, yeah, if you can just share that after you get the recording or the transcript.
I
that's
will.
Perfect.
Yeah, it stays on OneDrive and it's easy to share afterwards. So
excellent, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Michelle,
sir,
why don't you start this off with your section, because that's the biggest reason we're here today.
Okay.
And, go from there.
All right. Well, I spent a little time over the weekend kind of getting ready for our multiple sessions this week. My approach was I took our kind of draft generic, if you will, risk register and started plugging in, the different Smucker business units and functional areas. I really wanted people to, resonate with what they were seeing on that risk register. So, and then I also, Chris, did you
Michelle,
have something?
Do you want to show your slides, or do you want me to, or what would you like to do, so we'll look at the same thing?
I can. Let me pull them up. I don't have them super handy, but I'll find them. Hold on.
Oh, I got it. So
if you got it, then it's all yours.
Tell me if you can see this once it's up.
Yeah, that is beautiful.
Okay.
So I thought I would start off each session kind of in a consistent manner, because they'll proceed to go off the rails in different different ways, I'm sure. But I thought at least, I don't know exactly what everybody's background is with the project, with Archer, with, what we're trying to accomplish. So I thought it would be good to just kind of level set with folks what we're trying to do. And really, the objective of these sessions is to elicit from people specific risks that, are related to their business, and to document those. And then I'm not going to try to do it in the session, but, after the session, I need to put that into the taxonomy, into the hierarchy. So, people might articulate a risk and I might not be really sure exactly where it fits. So if you want to just scroll down a little, Chris. So
what I would say, though, on this particular slide, I think the reference slides, the fourth bullet point, we can talk to them, but I think we have to, it's not going to be the subject of the first session. That's going to come later.
100%. I had that information and I thought it was kind of a nice teaser to
I think it's a good introduction. I think if you put down future or some way saying that today won't discuss this, but you should be introduced to it or something like that.
Okay, let me pull it up on the master one and all. Risk register working sessions. Here we are. Reference slides for future.
Reference slide sort of says it, but I just want to make everyone sure that we're gonna not do more than just briefly talk about it.
Yeah, right, exactly. Okay. So yeah, so the objectives, I want to just level set with everybody that, there really is no industry standard risk register in any industry, particularly in consumer packaged goods. And so, what we're starting with is a generic risk register, and our objective is to build that out to be very Smucker specific, to come up with your risks and identify those and group those together. So that's kind of the whole thing. I mean, we have an hour with each group. Chris, while I'm thinking of it, I was going through over the weekend and developing my agendas and my, the attendees and stuff. Did I not see the one for the IT group with Travis, somebody?
Well, I guess when you get to look at your spreadsheet, I think you have it identified as cyber risk.
Yeah.
And there's a guy named Jay Buser who's in charge of that. We'll put that in. So the what you've distributed as a working copy, I need to check, because not only do we don't have cyber risk identified properly with Jay Buser, but he has specified 3 people to talk to about this, one of which is Travis Strong with his 2 others.
Yeah, yeah.
So we'll fill, and there's other things on the spreadsheet we'll have to fill out, like market risk and strategic risk, which
Yes,
isn't.
yes, exactly. Yeah, I noticed that we didn't have like meetings with those people, but what I'm suspecting is going to come out of these sessions is there's definitely going to be some overlap, right? Somebody's going to
Yeah.
identify a risk, somebody's going to identify the same risk. That's okay. Like we can absolutely, Archer can accommodate that. We want to have one group own the risk, but there can be, excuse me, interested parties in that risk that will call out. So, but I also suspect in addition to overlap that there's going to be some gaps too, that, the spreadsheet, which is just generic, there might be areas that we don't have anybody to own that risk. And
Yeah.
that may either be because we haven't found that person or because that risk doesn't even exist at Smucker's and we can just delete it from the register. So no big deal.
Okay, I think the area of massive overlap here is third-party risk and procurement, pardon me, and supply chain.
Commodities, yeah.
Yeah, those two areas, they're highly complementary.
Mhm.
And both people that manage these, I think, work together a great deal. We're going to separate the sessions, but Dan Nowicki is in charge of procurement. But yeah, whatever. That's the area I expect there'll be the most overlap. There'll also, I think, be some overlap in compliance areas. But anyway.
Yeah, yeah, legal and compliance. That was definitely one that, well, we clubbed the sessions together, and so that makes sense. Yeah,
Okay.
and that's fine. I mean, multiple people, as I said, can own a risk. I think,
Okay.
Okay, so then just, for everybody's benefit, I wanted to show that the taxonomy that we're striving towards, right? Like this is going to be the end game. It truly may not be the game that we get to in the sessions. As I said, we're probably going to be focused more on just identifying risks and how that fits into the taxonomy will be my takeaway to go and kind of figure that out. So, and again, we'll be coming out of this with something, Chris, that you can react to and opine on, right? I mean, I'm looking at you to be like our ultimate referee in this space. So if we have people that are disagreeing, I need you to be the arbiter of, yes, this risk belongs to this person. This risk belongs to that person. This one doesn't belong.
Well, I'm a middle child. I'm ideal for resolving.
Oh, good. You're
conflict
good
in
at
families.
conflict resolution.
Excellent. Yep.
Well, I think sometimes with risk ownership, once people realize that they actually have to work and maintain risks, they're not like so eager to grab, like they're not so eager to be like, oh yes, I want this, right? Because they have to assess inherent risk, they have to assess residual risk, they have to do all this stuff. So they might be like, oh no, go ahead, you take it.
Well, I do also think I'll express we have an ISO mindset, which means we're not going to get it perfect the first time. It just doesn't happen. So through repetition, we'll get better, and we'll add risks and do better assignments and all that. But that's all part of a longer process once we get this off the ground.
100%. So, yep, that's kind of where, with the groups, I'll probably stop my shtick. What the next slides show are, how inherent risk and residual risk are calculated. Again, this is for another day, but I did want to pull on this thread a little with you, Chris, because you've mentioned a couple of times that, once we have the risks identified, the risk register set up, that the plan would be to go out to the groups with an assessment to assess inherent risk. And I wanted to kind of just pull on that a little bit and let you know that, like, within the risks in the risk register, there is a place for assessing inherent risk, both impact and likelihood, and a little, blurb comments box in there that allows you to do that as well. So we may not if we have the risks assigned appropriately to the appropriate people, we may not need to go out with an assessment. It may simply be like a dashboard report that says these are all your risks. Go do, your inherent, obviously they can't do residual risk right yet, but do the inherent risk for impact and likelihood. Will be really easy once we get them assigned.
On this slide, I think it's no problem introducing to the subject, because the people we'll be interviewing in the next 2 weeks want to know what the next step is, and which is this. But I think we won't be doing quantitative this cycle, at least for the next year or so. So I'd take that away as
Oh,
something
100% qualitative, yeah.
Confuse people, and we'll stick to qualitative.
Absolutely. I guess my point is, though, that it's not necessary to do a separate assessment unless there's something, like a burning passion that you have about that. Like they can literally go into the risks, and I can pull up the risk register really quick and show you. So
Well,
just,
I think I think I've identified, depending how fast we can put the software together, that starting the week of March 7th, excuse me, we'll start scoring the risk basically and assigning risk to functions. But I'd rather do that, even though I know the system supports a survey method. I'd rather do that in a workshop. I won't have to do all those workshops. I'll have you probably start me off and make sure I get it right. Then I just finish them. That was my intent, but to get people, rather than plunge in and teach them how to use the software, et cetera, I'd rather do a workshop where we fill it out together. And
okay.
that way, when they come back, after, is just to repeat, but we're doing only residual risk by April for reasons.
Inherent risk.
Inherent risk. And
Inherent
after
risk,
that,
not
we'll
residual.
come back and do control. We need a controls library put in, and we need residual risk and so on. That's going to be a new effort starting in May, probably. So basically, we're going to simplify just to inherent risk and the related functions. Yeah, I'll be glad to. It's for those of you who haven't seen the you want to put the risk register or the functional? What do you want? I forget. What did you ask for?
I was going to show the risk register that
Yeah,
there are places to and I don't have that up.
I have that up too, so I will. Well, I can probably just. You said confidently.
Hold on.
I think
Whoever gets there first.
Yeah, one of us will.
So, Chris, while you're pulling that up, is through these sessions that are planned for the next 2 weeks, like you said, could we assess the inherent risk while we're going through the risk register and put in? No? Okay.
No.
I think that's going to be kind of I mean, it's a great thought, but I only have like an hour with people, and I feel like that could be a lot.
Sean, I'd like the software configured before we go into that inherent risk and scoring, so we can do it within the tool in a workshop. And certainly we've only just got, we don't have that. So later on, as we talk through this session, I want to address that, the functional needs we have, and get an understanding how we proceed there, so we can start that off on in March using the tool as part of a workshop.
Start using the tool in March. Yep.
Because obviously some of the work, Sean, that you and George and the rest of the team has got to do is getting the business hierarchy in there, which is going to give the people the access to be able to go in and score their inherent risk. So all that.
What I want to do is, I think I know where it is, but maybe I don't know where it is. Shoot, I thought I had it. Yeah, who gets there first? I had it up. Damn. Okay.
I'm gonna win this race.
Well, you're chasing a tortoise here, so I'm not sure. That's a big.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So this is our demo Tutela environment. This is an actual risk, right? The risk is called 2013 HIPAA revisions, but where I was going with this is you have the ability on a risk. There I am right there. So once we have our risks established, and we have appropriate ownership of the risk from the business hierarchy and having appropriate user accounts with appropriate access, they can go in and score themselves the inherent likelihood and the inherent impact and write a little blurb about why they're scoring it like that.
Yeah.
So that will be, like, in my mind, that's about step 3. So first of all is get the risk register. Second of all, pitch that, and simultaneously really George and Sean working on the business hierarchy. And then the business users can go in and score inherent risk.
Yeah, that'd be ideal. And
That's the plan.
with an emphasis on using off-the-shelf products, of course, in terms of that process.
And even if, the development of the business hierarchy and the user accounts and all that stuff, even if that lags behind a little bit, like, we can certainly get that data into Archer using a data import. That's easy.
Yeah.
So lots of ways to skin the cat.
Yeah, well, and I'm sharing this spreadsheet that you sent out on Saturday. This
Yes.
is our starting point, which you probably, everyone on the call probably has. What's obvious is on cyber risk, Colby and Taylor are obviously know a lot about this, but this is a Jay Buser is the name there. What I'm going to do, I guess, later today is put in names where I can and send it back to you. So we have at least the names that we think will be covering that.
Okay.
And also he's named in his, can you all see my screen and see the spreadsheet?
Yes.
You don't?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, and then he's actually named 3 people, including Travis Strong, yeah, to kind of own downstream stuff. But it will be, so anyway, so we don't have yet, and I'll talk to the risk management committee now. We don't have a market risk owner yet, but we
Right.
should. It was actually identified in a meeting, and we didn't take action on it. So we need that. Operational risk, I know pretty much who's going to belong here.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
those might get parsed up. Like, as I was going through and looking at your functional areas, I was pulling some of
Yeah.
the operational risks into appropriate areas, but those were ones that still didn't quite, in my mind, have a home.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, but I think I'll just fill these out later on today as best I can. Ron Horde owns a lot of this operational area, where Brian Pickett is a quality guy and Chris Tadeo is the BCP guy, but the rest of these belong to Ron Horde. And
Oh, okay.
then on reputational risk and strategic risk, I have to ask. I know you have multiple strategic risk areas here, but I need to ask about that. We have a SVP of strategy, a wonderful lady, and I know her a little bit, so she may be willing to step in and head that up. But
Cool.
nonetheless, I'll resolve that fairly soon.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah,
Okay.
appreciate any updates, because this will be, eventually our data import template for our initial load into Archer. So
Yeah, it will. Okay, well, what I'd like to do, because I felt this session wouldn't be anywhere near. I want to stop sharing that, and then I'm going to go back to my my outline, because I had an idea of what I had to talk about after, in terms of what Sean George and Taylor will be interested in. Now, if I could actually find it, it's on me now, isn't it? It was my.
It's in the meeting. You got it in the
Yeah.
meeting. But
What? Well, I'm seeing it on my screen. I just can't seem to share it
okay.
for whatever reason. Well, I'll just talk to it. It's been distributed. Software configuration, and then used in phase 1 in the workshops in March. I have A through G of ideas here, but they're only ideas, and you've set these up in Archer, and I have not. Sean and George.
Yeah.
So what I'd like you to do as soon as possible is evaluate, this, and give me some ideas on what it takes to do it and how long it will take to do it, basically.
Okay.
And these are very obviously high level functional risk. If you could have a work plan to put this out with sample screens and stuff, I'd appreciate it within the next few days.
Okay.
So we don't know what we're building in, which you know so much about.
Well, so that gets to the question around, you know, that letter A, right? Hide all screen elements not initially needed. I'm going to need some help from you as to what you want to start with.
Well, again, I suspect you'll recommend too much, and I'll go through and say, because I know it's pretty easy to hide elements in a screen. So I think we'll just have to have some back and forth sessions, Sean, once you get your hands dirty in it, and then we'll try to. But my goal, and you know, and I'll watch how you simplify too, so I can do it myself after a while.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, it's not a problem.
Now, on our instance, we have all 3 instances. Currently it's only under my name, my password name, and you guys will need access to it, of course.
Yes, that's on our list of things to talk to you about.
That was my next question.
I'll disclose my password and whatever. I know as a sysadmin, you can add your own user accounts after a while. So, and I expect we'll just be working initially in the development system because we have 3 instances.
Is there, I know we got a sysadmin account. Is that sysadmin account intended to be kind of, hey, here's your sysadmin account, put it away, set up other user accounts with the privileges that you need?
Mm-hmm. Use the sysadmin account, the recovery account, yeah.
Right.
But we will create other sysadmin accounts, to be clear. So that sysadmin account is like the mother sysadmin account. George will need one. You know, I'll probably need one. Sean will need one, and others. So the sysadmin has got access to the entire system, all the records, it is the one ring that binds them, rules them all, right?
Exactly.
So, but yes, as we go forward, we're going to want to specify other, maybe application admins or different levels of access through the system.
I do think, oh, great. And so anyway, I got it up on my screen now. So
you did it.
I did it, and I just overlooked something. But the 11, once we get the hierarchy, of course, I want a guy who owns X to be able to just view X and so on. Of course, I mean that's my initial. There has been a question of why do we expand the permissions? We've identified, first of all, we want AD to manage it, not us. And Taylor's optimistic, I think. Taylor's also been in touch with people not on this call about that, right, Taylor? So once she's back, so we think this week we'll make some progress there on getting AD scheduled to happen.
Yeah, Taylor, I just have questions about what typically we do typically people do, I guess, from a access perspective. I mean, I've looked through all the user roles. Do people generally make their own user roles just based on the way that they're going to manage their risk? And so, because I wasn't sure if we were going to do that through SSO, which I think that was our original plan, was to do role-based access through single sign-on, but I need to know what those roles are prior to us setting that up. So Chris sent me over like a process map that has all of the initial names, but I don't know how like in-depth each role should be, or if it should just be like overseeing like a functional area, or if it even can, like a role could oversee a functional area or a business unit.
Depending how you set it up, yeah, the role can be as granular as you want or as high level as you want as well, yeah. Okay.
Is that standard to do it? Sorry, is it standard to do it that way? To do it like only the HR or only the HR program lead can see only HR? Okay, perfect.
Yep.
That helps.
Yeah, and I think if we can, some of the areas are quite big, so they have what I'm calling functional leads, which are multiple of them for a program lead. So basically, I'd like to make that level down too. So I just to lack confusion. I don't want people down the food chain looking at everything because it'll be confusing for them. So
Archer supports all that with the role-based access control, all the way down to individual field levels if you want. So we can get as granular.
Yeah. We probably won't go that far, but we might. But it's nice to know.
Yeah.
Do we need Do we need to wait on that until everything is kind of set up within Archer though? Because are we going to be creating fields, or is everything going to be out of the box already existing fields?
We're going to try to use everything out of the box with all the
Okay.
existing fields as much as possible. If there's something unique, we can rename an existing field or try to keep
Okay.
everything. I think Chris's goal is to keep everything as a minimal viable product at this point, and leveraging out of the box as much as possible.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Okay.
So let me call this out, because I've probably spent the most time of our group within the Smuckers organization taxonomy and stuff. So the business hierarchy that's supported in Archer is 3 levels: company, division, business unit. Smuckers also has the construct of functional area. So we may need to add that lowest level. This is going to be a conversation that Sean and George and you guys are going to explore with them, but they definitely have that idea, and it's borne out in the spreadsheet and the taxonomy. So just like be thinking about that.
Okay.
Is that going to be a workshop or something we're going to facilitate, or a template you guys want us to fill? I'm trying to think how we get to, here's what our requirement is, right? For that you guys can take it and do setup. How do you do that?
Well, I think go ahead,
my intent is, once the screens are set up, to collect the data that will, the first time through, do a workshop for each of the people that will be using it eventually. I'd like them self-sufficient after a while, so of course, updates later on happen more automatically. But the first or second time through, I'm leaning toward a workshop, Colby, starting however whatever number we schedule, starting the week of March 7th. So I'm guessing a Teams meeting like this, and one of either the user will have control or I'll have control, one or the other, but we're looking at the same screen, collecting the same data.
Well, Chris, what I'm talking about though, Chris, is how do we get to that point, right? Not the meeting itself, but how do we get to the requirements that Archer's going to need to configure those screens?
Yeah. Well, what I like, what I pointed out was a pretty very spare set of functions. I'm asking really Sean to just specify exactly what he needs to do those functions. And if he has additional areas that he thinks is useful, I'd like to hear that too. But basically, the final requirement is going to be in Sean's hands, not mine. So I think we need some kind of a date, Sean, by which we could kind of look at what your design, what you put together. And I'll ask you two guys to put your heads together and give us a date.
Okay.
And because we're using existing screens, I don't necessarily need to go down way into more functional definition than that, I'm hoping. So.
Okay.
Is that okay with you, Colby? Or
well, I'm still at a loss here, right? Because I still feel like, what is the task list, right? Because I know you're throwing this March 4th or 7th date out there, but I have no way to know if it's achievable from our standpoint or from a configuration standpoint. I want to know
that's what I'm asking.
What is the work, right, that has to get done, and who's going to do
exactly. it? That's what I need George and Sean to put together. A work plan.
So let me jump in. So there's going to be 2 paths, Colby. There's going to be the Michelle path that's doing the content of the risk register.
Yep,
and then there is a Sean George path that is going to be, how do we set this up? What configuration? So there is going to need to be some workshops that happen on that side of the house concurrently while I'm meeting with all the people about the content of the risk register. So bifurcated.
Yep. And I think that's what Chris and I are both saying, right? It's, I think I have an idea of where you're going, Michelle, with the risk register side, but what's that task list for the configuration side, right?
They're still figuring it out,
that's what we got to figure out.
Sean needs another cup of coffee before he gets there.
And I expect Sean and George to bring best practices to this anyway. I have my list is suggestions only, not demands. And so if you have a different way to do it to industry standard, we're all ears, because we're very naive. We're very early stage on this and don't have a lot of conviction about exactly what we should do.
Yep, we'll keep it to what you need to get done, and we can always add to it. And it's pretty easy to drag things back off layout, bring them into the plate, and it's just.
And after this first setup, I will be asking you, of course, eventually to add a controls library and the residual risk methods to it, and that'll be a separate work phase. But
now you got all the calculations, yay.
Yeah, in this case, to me, it seems like grab some screens, grab some grab some database elements and say, this is what we're going to use, and then we can talk about them.
Yeah.
And then we can work our way towards simplification, which is going to be important to us as well.
We can lock some stuff up on our side from the systems we have access to while we wait to get access to your instance.
Now, going back to the my thing, I think we have an ambition to integrate Workday, but that's not on the critical path.
Okay.
That's a nice to have at some point. And on our side, Taylor will be managing that as well. But Active Directory is completely on the critical path toward doing this as much as we can. So
Active Directory is the critical path. Is that what you said, Chris?
yeah, I'd like to. If Taylor, I know you're talking to people that aren't on this call. If you get a sense it's going to drag out for a while, just let me know. We can clearly work around it. But by the time we hit the week of March 7th, we may have, dozens of people joining these workshops. I'd like to do it through AD if we can, but if we can, we can.
Yeah, I think March 7th might be a little tight, but I will reach out to those teams just to see. But just from our side infrastructure perspective, I think it might be a little tight.
Okay, well, you'll let me know if that doesn't work, because we can always, do it by hand and get it done that way if we have to.
Do we need to expedite then the application role conversations and workshop first? Because it sounds like, Taylor, you were saying we need to know that
we do.
to do the single sign, right?
Yes, I think we do. I think we need to, I mean, I'm currently mapping out what I think the roles will look like, but I think until I know exactly how I can assign roles, or how we can assign roles, I guess, I can't really create that, because we need to also make a request item in our ServiceNow environment so that people can request what role they need, and then that will put them in the right security group, which will then, so we need the roles before I can do any of that.
Right, so let's get a meeting, Taylor, with you and Colby maybe. Do you want to be part of that, Colby?
I don't have to be. Taylor.
You don't have to.
Taylor can run with it. Yeah.
And you can put me down as optional. I'll join if I can.
Okay. Got it.
Okay.
Dragging you through all the weeds on the risk register sessions, Chris. You're going to be ripped asunder.
Well, I've got things to learn too. Anyway, this I'll leave this phase. We talked to this how we're going to do more after. I'm being redundant probably, but there's certain things we're trying to get done by a board meeting on April 21st. So that's kind of driving our timeline and our context for the work we're doing. So y'all know. So, and then the CEO wants hands on the product too. So that not to put more pressure on you, Sean, or anything. He wants. He says, I heard basically, he wants to see it. Cool.
Yeah. Looking forward to it.
Mr. Smucker?
Mr. Mark Smucker, CEO, who would like to see the real thing when we get there. And before the board meeting. So.
Before the board meeting, so before April 21st.
Yeah, and we hope with the board meeting we're not going to do a demo, but God knows maybe we will. I don't know, but basically we're going to have the risk registers put together and the inherent risk collected, we believe, by then, or most of them. But we're going to start off. We have an idea of the parts of the company that are more important than others, or have more areas of risk. So we're going to proceed once we get into the residual risk collection by the importance of areas. And so there may be some undone areas, but that shouldn't hold back the system for working properly and showing most of the good stuff.
Yep, and that's just it. For the board meeting, we can do executive level dashboards. We can show all kinds of reporting, all that fun stuff too. So
and if we can drill down on one of the important areas like procurement is important now, and supply chain, one of those two, we could just drive down to the bottom and show how you roll up and roll down and drill down, and that would be something that would be pretty exciting for them, I think.
Okay.
So,
happy to do it.
Okay, I knew this wouldn't last very long. I don't think it has, because we're pretty well prepared. I will, on my to-dos, I'm just going to try to populate more names on the risk register today, so we can, over the next 2 weeks, talk to more people maybe than we've already scheduled.
And send us your sysadmin passwords for your environments, please. All three.
Thanks.
Yep.
We only have one right now. Taylor was away and hers lapsed while she was away, so that we only have one, but I'll send it to you and you can start.
Is that for your dev environment?
Pardon me?
Is it for your dev environment?
Yeah. What's up for all three environments?
I just created myself a new user, So.
You did. Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
Oh, I'm gonna like this girl. She's good.
Yeah.
Well, okay, having done that, why don't you send out the access passwords and Taylor?
Yep, I can do that.
Than me doing that.
I can do that. And then Sean, do you want me to set up a meeting or do you want to set up that meeting between us?
You want me to just shoot you some times that work for
Sure.
Georgia? Okay.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yep, I'll do that. As soon as we get off this call, I'll send you a couple dates and times
Okay.
for this week. Yep.
Okay. Well, good. I'm happy with how things are starting. I'm sure it will go well. Always does, right? Until it
Of
doesn't.
course.
Okay, guys. And I'm keeping almost everything I possibly can off my schedule, so I can be reactive and jump in as needed, Michelle. So, okay, if those of you don't know, our first session starts tomorrow, so we're not,
Yes.
there's no pressure here, but.
Yeah, no, nothing at all. So yeah, tomorrow we've got multiple sessions tomorrow, right? We've got human resources at 9:30, and then we've got quality and food safety at 4 p.m. Is that what you've got, Chris?
The only group that drags out to early next week is IT, because there were 3 people that had to be involved. Travis and 2 others, so it's harder to schedule them, so.
Sure.
But anyway, there we are. We're scheduled now. So if something pops up like on the market risk, if there's a new person to be interviewed, then we'll have to do it probably next week. But
Yeah, push it to next week because we've got 2 to 3 sessions a day every day. So
Yes.
we're pretty chock-a-blocked full.
We are.
I definitely want to make sure that we record those sessions because I am similar to you that it's very difficult to lead and take notes and
Yes.
juggle and ride a unicycle. So
And I find that almost easier than to have a scribe, because that way you get from the horse's mouth stuff. I've
That's
had
right.
scribes in the past that don't get it all, and the recording does. Okay, well, I guess we're done. I'm going to stop recording now, and then when I get the there it is, and when I get the